This is The Balance Dilemma. We tackle the often uniquely, but not always, female dilemma, managing life, work, family, and self. I'm Maura Carlin.
And I'm Christy Derrico. At The Balance Dilemma, we speak with women and men to hear their balanced stories. Our guests are entrepreneurs, reinventors, creators, executives, parents, and partners, telling us what we really want to know. How the heck did they manage that? And can you have it all and all at the same time?
Think about how some women are the connectors, the ones who bring people into the same room, build community, and create opportunity for others while making it all look effortless. Our guest today is one of those women. Amanda DePalma is the Senior Vice President of Events and Development at the Business Council of Westchester, the county's largest and most influential business membership organization. Amanda oversees more than 80 major events each year, including the Hall of Fame Awards and the Westchester Business Showcase, programs that connect business leaders, entrepreneurs, and rising talent across the region, helping create pathways for the next generation of women and men in business. And the story of how she got here begins with a love of weddings. We're going to let Amanda tell her story. Welcome to the show, Amanda. So good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you both.
So we met when you reached out to us because you read about The Balance Dilemma in Westchester Magazine, their little profile on us, and we agreed to a podcast swap. And I loved that you gave us some background about how you got to where you are, which started with a millennial career, your millennial career arc, as you called it. And that started with your love of weddings and wedding planning. And what does that mean? Tell us about that.
Yes. So I was one of those little girls who just fixated on the idea of weddings and events for as long as I could remember. There's actually video proof of me one Christmas talking about planning events and planning weddings. I'll have to dig that up for future reference. But then as I went on just through my career, I was always in high school and college, doing all the events, the proms, the dances, the fundraisers. And so I really decided that that was the career I wanted to go into, but there wasn't anything, in that field in terms of majors, event planning and whatnot. So I created a self-design major. I focused on marketing, public relations, communications, and then post-college started working at a variety of different venues, planning weddings for them here in the Westchester area.
And as I understand it, you had a curveball that in 2008 that took you to where you are today. Tell us about that.
And might have been the best thing to happen to you.
Yes. Well, that's what I mean when I say sort of the millennial arc is there's so many of us that, graduated college in around 2006, started working at our first real-time careers and career jobs. And then 2 years in, kind of the bottom fell out. And a number of us, including myself, got laid off. And as a type A perfectionist, that was a hard hit. So it took a little time to figure out what was going on. And I happened to have lunch one day with my aunt, and she mentioned her best friend was looking for an executive assistant and thought that I might be perfect for the role. And they were hiring and the schedule worked, and she and I really hit it off. And that's how I ended up doing that for a period of time while sort of the economy recovered and my career recovered.
And that was at the Business Council of Westchester?
No, that was actually at Berkeley College at the time. And so I was the executive assistant over there. And as I said, I really was able to still do a lot of what I do in terms of the fundraising, the sponsorship building, and the event planning, just under the umbrella of being a executive assistant for her.
It's something we've touched upon before, but it specifically affected millennials who dealt with 2008 and then COVID, and they've had to adapt, and some have done better than others. But here you are. So how did you get from that position to the position you have today?
Well, funny enough, when I took that role, I distinctly remember my boss at the time sort of saying to me, "This is just a stop for you." She goes, "I absolutely do not want you to spend the rest of your life and career here. This is just a moment in time while the world figures everything out." And that's really what it was. And then
That's a great lesson.
And I never really thought about it. And every once in a while, I do reflect on that because it really was, it was a moment in time. I made the most of the opportunity. I went back and got my master's degree actually while I was working there. So I was able to achieve that goal. And then wedding industry picked back up again. Events picked back up again. And my former employer came calling and asked me to come back. And I said, absolutely, of course. And that's how I got back into wedding and event planning for a number of years before the call came from that same former boss to say, the Business Council of Westchester is looking for a director of corporate events. And it was just the right time to kind of make that pivot from and delve more into the corporate space.
So, this is something that comes up a lot in our programs, having yourself out there, being open and available for opportunities. Was it just a random call, or did you have a LinkedIn page, or what was your profile to let your former employer know that you might be open to new opportunities?
I don't even think it was anything other than she's always had this idea and my best interests at heart in terms of what's the next best great thing Amanda can do. And because she's so involved in this organization, when she found out the position was open, she just instantaneously, and another friend of hers as well, who I was also familiar with, both called me on vacation. They were both on vacation in Aruba in different places and called me up and said, we think this is your next great big step. And so I absolutely put my hat in the ring, and that's how I ended up here.
And what did that teach you about the power or importance of connections?
A lot. I think really that is, I mean, it's very simply put, is that you never know where something is always going to lead. And as I said, being someone who is a perfectionist and type A, being laid off so early on in my career, it was a really heavy hit and something I really had to swallow in regards to my pride, but it was absolutely the best thing to ever happen to me. So I think just looking back on my own career and looking forward and talking to others is sometimes when things just don't seem like they're working out in a weird way, they probably are. You just sometimes have to play the long game.
There was also a personal aspect to this.
Yes. Wonderfully enough, while I was at that executive assistant position, I happened to meet my now husband, and he was working for an outside vendor for the school as well. And that same former boss, as I mentioned, was instrumental in kind of stirring the pot a little bit and introducing us and encouraging us to meet up one night and go out. And after that, it was history. And we've now been together for 16 years.
You also seem to be living some advice that I give my interns. Every position they have is putting a footprint in the world. And whether it's going to be in that position or something in the future, it's an opportunity to show who you are, show what you're capable of. And that's what seemed to work for you. So you should take advantage of everything, whether it's a paid internship or a job that isn't going to be your forever job. It's a chance to show what you're made of.
Absolutely. And I always sort of had that silly kind of quote in my head that, they say, dress for the job that you want. But interestingly enough, I always took it as more than just that. It was sort of like dress and act and engage for the job that you want. So wherever you are, just keep working towards what you do want, whether that is physically how you present yourself, the quality of work that you put out there, the connections that you make and the relationships that you foster, because you never know where that's going to lead you in the long run.
And so now you do 80 plus events for the Business Council of Westchester, and you moved your way up into that.
Yes and no. So when I started with the organization, now going on 11 years, we always had such a robust calendar of events. I think what I've been able to do as I've grown in the role is expand on them both in terms of quality as well as some of the quantity. So it's a combination of adding some new things to the calendar, taking off the things that no longer work. And the events I was putting together when I first started here, 10 or 11 years ago, with COVID in the middle, and now what we're putting out to the business community, it's like night and day.
So we're going to come back and talk about that more, but you're also a mom.
Yes.
So how do you manage? The events are day and night. I assume you're on call when the lights go out or the microphones aren't working. Talk about that.
So it really does come down to a combination of just my own love of my family, my own love of my job, because when you do love what you do, it's not really working. I know that's a little cliche to say, but it very much is true. But I am very lucky, and I've worked really hard to create the support system, both here within the organization, as well as within family or friends. And you've got days where everything flows perfectly smoothly. And then you have days where you're kind of still scrambling around and trying to make everything come together. But it really does come down to a love of what you do and the support system you create for yourself and you foster.
So what does the home support system look like?
So for me, I'm very lucky. I have an incredible partner. My husband is very involved. There is not really anything he doesn't do. So we have some morning routines, we have nighttime routines. Incredibly lucky to have the support of my mother-in-law when she's in town, my sister, my sister-in-laws, aunts, friends. Everybody is just, and a lot of my sister and my cousins and sister-in-law, they have kids too. So sometimes it's very much we're sharing and everyone's kind of helping out each other.
I have to dial back to something that happened during when we were on your show. And you had a little bit of a coughing fit.
A little.
A little, so much so that we weren't on TV. It was just an audio recording and you were able to leave the room. So that drew upon our skills of being able to talk no matter what
Yeah.
is going on. But I thought this lady's got to be a mom because she rolled with it and she went out, dealt with her coughing fit, came back in, didn't miss a beat. I thought we showed pretty good skills there.
You did great. I think, as a matter of fact, even I was like, just keep rolling. I'll be back. It'll be fine.
Right.
So tell us about the Business Council. What does your membership look like? What type of businesses are there? Who are you looking to draw in? Tell us what it looks like.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned before, the Business Council of Westchester is the largest and preeminent business membership organization in the county. We have over 1,100 members, and they are everything from your large organizations like your PepsiCos and your Regenerons and your MasterCards, Google, JetBlue, Delta. So global brands. We have incredible mid-size businesses, hospital systems. We have incredible small businesses that really cover everything from to finance to professional services. We have, I think we're up to over 150 nonprofits, which is incredible. That's one of our sort of main points of view, is that the not-for-profit community is just as much a part of the business community as your more traditional organizations. And then we have a great amount of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, individual people. So it really does run the gamut, as well as not only the size of business, but the businesses located here in Westchester, as well as the ones doing business here in Westchester and beyond.
And what services do you offer to your membership?
Excuse me, talk about a coughing fit. So we have a number of different ones. Really, really what the base of what we do is the connectivity. It's the fostering of the relationships. It's the getting members in front of stakeholders that will help them expand their businesses, making the connections, brand awareness, advertising opportunities. So really, my colleague, Linda Tyler, she heads up our membership department and she does a fantastic job with it. But it is absolutely a home base of relationships and then what we can do to help these businesses succeed and prosper.
So what, if you know, is the breakdown of men and women? Is that something you look at?
I don't know. I really don't. And I don't necessarily think that is data that we have in particular, but I don't know, maybe 50-50. I really don't know.
I was just going to say, looking at your staff, there's a lot of women there. So that's a testament of who's running things for your organization.
Yes. Well, and I think also, too, a testament to this organization is we've all been here for so many years. Marsha Gordon, our president and CEO, I think she's going upwards now on maybe almost 30 years. John Ravitz, our COO and executive vice president, I think he's going on 15. As I said, I've been with the organization for 11. Colleagues have been here for 5, 9. We kind of come here and we love it and we just don't leave.
Stability.
Yes.
Do you find that the members talk about balance or they want to hear about suggestions about how to be an entrepreneur and start a business? Or is that something that comes up?
Absolutely. I mean, we often weave that into our own programming, whether it is a podcast episode, whether it is a partnership for webinars. We work with a wonderful organization, Balancing Life's Issues, and they have a tremendous lineup of content that really just speaks to that because balance for every person looks very, very different. What works for me absolutely may not work for you, Maura, may not work for you, Christy, may not work for my colleague, John, may not work for Marsha. So I think the trick is learning how other people balance and then pulling from that what actually applies and can be beneficial to you.
And that is, in fact, the balance dilemma here.
100%.
So you've started a new endeavor, which is relatively new, your podcast. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I have been an avid fan of podcasts forever, commuting to and from work for many, many years, being an avid runner. Sometimes the music just gets old and you want to learn, absorb different types of content. So I would say, 10, 15 years ago, I really started listening to podcasts when they first started coming out. And now they're really just a great way to get information out there. We all receive thousands of emails a week. We're inundated with content. And depending on how people operate, whether it is commuting or they're walking to work or they just want some background on in their offices, the podcasts are just a great way to get out information. And so a couple of years ago when we were talking about what's the next step for the Business Council to get information to our members, I was a complete proponent of starting a podcast network. And so that started in 2024. And since then, we've had over 40,000 listens.
Wow. That's
And
great.
where can our listeners find your show?
So you can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, iHeart. You also can go to our website, thebcw.org. Just click on the podcast page. The newest episode will show up. We have 5 different shows we're up to now, and they cover a variety of topics. So depending on if you want to listen to advocacy and politics, we have one focused on that, one focused on nonprofits, what's trending, Leadership Unleashed, and then, of course, a podcast that focuses on our members and their stories.
So what's the most interesting or strange episode that you've had?
Probably the one with you both when I started having a coughing fit.
I was thinking,
I have to say, I can't say that any of them have been strange. We've had such a lineup of incredible guests, whether it be college presidents, whether it be, heads of government, our county executive. We've also had incredible episodes, topic-based, like our AI episodes. So really just the quality of people that we get to talk to and we get to interview is really top-notch from a business, and community perspective.
so when we asked you some questions to prepare for this interview, we touched upon personal enjoyment and what you do in your time to fulfill your life. And I got to ask you, cleaning the gutters, really?
Yes. So growing up, my parents were both teachers, and one of my most vivid memories with them is just the amount of effort and pride and care they put into their home. And so, when my husband and I were fortunate enough to buy our home back in 2017, we very much undertook every adventure, ripping up floorboards, taking walls down. We renovated the whole thing ourselves. But then with that comes the maintenance. And I've really just come to love taking care of my home in that way. So whether it's getting up on the ladder and cleaning the gutters with him, I love a good Friday mowing of the lawn on the riding mower. Just for me, there's just a sense of pride and being able to sort of step back and look at what we've been able to create and know that we're taking care of it. I've always looked at our home as we're stewards of it. Someone came before us, someone will come after it. So I'm just doing my best to take care of it for whoever gets it when the mortgage is up 30 years from now.
There's a physical thing you can claim credit for.
Correct. I can look at that and go, yeah, those gutters look good because I was up there, or that lawn looks good. He's handling the snow blowing right now, so everything looks good because of the snow blowing with him. But yeah, I love to get out there in the summer and mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Clean the
Sweat
gutters.
equity. Love it. Well, we have a question that we usually ask we always ask our guests. This is our hallmark question, and it is perfect for someone like you, seeing an array of business owners and people and your whole life experience. The question is, with balance, can you have it all and all at the same time?
So I personally think you can have it all. I don't think you can have it at all the time. And what I mean by that is I believe, at least for myself, I've had moments in my life where I have had it all and all at the same time. And then I've had moments where maybe something slipped, whether it was during, COVID and things were just crazy, or being laid off from your first job, or something, the gutter broke and now I got to fix it, whatever it is. But then there are absolutely moments in time where you can take a step back, or at least I can take a step back and say, I've worked really hard to get to where I am. I'm so proud of everything I've accomplished. And right now I do have it all.
Is there something you wish you had done or done differently?
Well, I think career-wise, I actually followed the path I was supposed to follow, even though it wasn't fully what I set out to do. I think looking back, maybe I would have just taken a few more risks in terms of, taking the job that required me to travel. I had looked into getting on a private yacht and doing the whole yacht thing, and I just never did it. So, and that's something, again, it's more like when you're in college or you're in your 20s and you're figuring it out. But other than that, I think every step or every misstep I had got me here for a reason.
What would you tell your 20, 25, or 30-year-old self?
get on the snowboard before you're 30. Because I didn't take up snowboarding until I was 30, and you're much more aware of the bones you might break when you're that age. So definitely get on the snowboard earlier. Learn to cook a little sooner in life and come up with like 5 solid, entertaining meals. I have them now, but I would have loved them, 10, 15 years ago. And I think just, you take the risks, you calculate them. But I think sometimes the risks are really worth it. There's something to be said for playing it safe. But, if you don't have a mortgage and you don't have kids or you don't have a partner and life and the world are ahead of you, just take that risk and just see what's out there, because you don't know what you're going to find once you get out there.
I like
And
that.
what is next for you and for the BCW network or podcast?
Yes. Well, I think next for me, my birthday is on February 7th. I'm going to be 42. So, of course, that's a big to do. And then I think for the Business Council of Westchester, we just have some incredible economic development opportunities coming up. We just announced last week, we've partnered with Google to launch our AI intensive for 2026. And it's going to be a upskilling AI program that we're putting out. And it's really probably the most meaningful, hands-on, exploratory program that the county's been able to put out there, or we've been able to offer the county, I should say, in terms of AI, because it's everywhere and everyone wants to learn about it and everyone wants to start applying it. And I think that's really the next step is applying it. And that's what this program will do. Teach people how
So
to do
for
that.
somebody like me, if I wanted information on that, how would I use a product like that? What will it offer?
Well, the program itself is going to be a 5-week cohort. And so I think we're going to have 2 cohorts with it. So 2 different sessions. We have a max of 50 organizations that can sign up. I think we're at about 48 or 49 right now. But hopefully the success of it will lead us to more opportunities to do the same thing. And we've partnered with some great facilitators who are going to come in and really just teach the hands-on applications of what AI can do for you in your business. And because that, again, varies based on the businesses, it's going to really cover a lot of different sort of genres and verticals in that way.
Cool. Well,
So you
this
want to tell us,
organization uses I.
Yeah, no, it's very cool when used right.
how do people learn more about the Business Council of Westchester or get
Absolutely. Well,
involved?
definitely follow us, all on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and then, of course, go to thebcw.org. That's our website. A ton of information there, resource center, and check us out on YouTube as well. You can just search Business Council of Westchester. We have some great content up there as well.
Great. It's been great talking to you again, Amanda.
Thank you, ladies. It was so good to see you both.
Thank you, Amanda.
Have a good one.
You too.
Please follow us, listen to us, and rate us on our platforms, Spotify, Apple, and our website, thebalanceddilemma.com, where you can also subscribe to our newsletter and email us your suggestions. There's no cost, but it means a lot to us.